From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay.
I figured, you know what, I'll spend 7 days in bed and just fight it off and I'd be okay. But I was totally wrong.
Flu season can be dangerous for certain people's hearts. What researchers have found that could help. Plus an AgDay Harvest Tour preview.
I don't see any big demand event that's going to grow demand significantly more than expectation.
And the latest farmers' sentiments about the ag economy.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Grain markets continue to rally on Tuesday following a strong showing on Monday and the USDA's quarterly grain stocks report. Soybean futures in Chicago seeing front-month contracts climb double digits during the trading session. Soybean meal prices were also higher. Some of that carryover driven by USDA's revisions to last year's soybean crop. On Monday, the quarterly grain stocks report from USDA lowered the 2018 crop to 4.428 billion bushels, down 116 million from its January estimate. That also lowered soybean stocks as of September 1st. Prices also encouraged by continued positive momentum in the trade dispute with China. Now, China not focused on Trade Tuesday, instead celebrating the 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. Communist rule started back in 1949. Current President Xi Jinping led the event that included a military parade, flyovers, marching troops, and fireworks. Back at home, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell sang in an interview on CNBC that rural America needs a China trade deal soon. That as a gauge of U.S. manufacturing, the Purchasing Managers Index marked its lowest reading in a decade. China very much on the minds of producers, according to the latest Purdue CME Group Ag Economy Barometer. An increasing number, now 41%, expect the dispute to be settled soon. That's about double what it was in July. Now, as far as the overall Ag Economy Barometer, the index dropping again this month to 121. That's down 3 points from August and well off highs from earlier in the year. The Ag Economy Barometer is based on results from a nationwide telephone survey of 400 U.S. crop and livestock producers. Now, ag producers, they're also more pessimistic about current conditions for their farm and the ag economy, but they did feel better about future economic opportunities. Much of that driven by an expected eventual resolution to the trade dispute with China.
In recent months, there's an increasing percentage of farmers that say they expect to see the trade dispute with China resolved pretty quickly, which is somewhat interesting. And then secondly, as you look at it, pretty consistently, farmers have told us that they expect a positive outcome for U.S. agriculture to this trade dispute at the end of the day. Between 65 and about 71 or 72% of the farmers in our survey have been telling us consistently that they think this will have a positive outcome for U.S. ag at the end of the day.
Until the dispute is resolved, concerns about current economic conditions led producers to be less inclined to think now is a good time to make large investments in their farming operations. The Farm Capital Investment Index, it fell to 47, which was 20 points lower than in July.
The I-80 Harvest Tour is brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
Many farmers are already looking to next year, even before harvest of this year's crop begins. 2019 has been a year of hardships. After a rough start, will the finish be any better? AgDay's Betsy Gibbon has a preview and our first I-80 Harvest Tour report for the season.
Spring flooding, well into fall for farmers in Nebraska.
We've got about 500 to 600 acres down here that is completely underwater that we haven't been able to farm now for the last 2 years.
As they want to forget this year, farmers still need to harvest and look for marketing opportunities. With multiple scenes like this through the growing season, there's hope USDA will revise its numbers for what will actually be harvested this year, since there's been confusion for months about expectations.
Part of that was related to the fact that USDA estimated surprisingly large planted acreage combined with some yields that people really weren't expecting.
Some analysts say the rally farmers are hoping for with potential harvested numbers may come too late, if it comes at all.
I think as time goes on, the longer it takes to resolve the harvested acres, the less impact it will have on the market. And I fear it will be January before we get it.
While price has been about supply and demand, analysts worry a big demand boost won't be there when farmers need it.
I fear, my greatest fear, is that there is no big demand event out there. I don't see any big demand event that's going to grow demand significantly more than expectation that we in the future.
So from the corn complex, no, there isn't a place where we're seeing that spark of growth.
Both say we have yet to see a big event. Farmers saw a big drought scare in the mid-2010s and experienced ethanol demand in the early 2000s, even though recently plants have started to shut down.
We have seen the ethanol industry definitely slow down through a combination of factors there. Not only the RFS changes, but changes within the exports for ethanol.
The latest quarterly grains and stocks report this week confirms grain stocks in the U.S. are lower than anticipated.
We got a big jump in the soybeans after that USDA quarterly reports came out.
But it also shows farmers are holding on to a crop, which may not help if there isn't a big demand boost.
I think this is a very friendly report for corn and soybeans. The one asterisk that I have for that is that we have a lot of on-farm corn and soybeans in storage. 22% higher in corn and 165% higher than last year in soybeans. That suggests that there's a lot of corn and soybeans that could be coming to town here.
So they store for 8 to 9 months and actually end up worse off than if they sold off the combine and taken the cash value.
However, there is some trade news. The U.S. and Japan signing a trade deal the ag industry has wanted for years. China buying more U.S. beans ahead of trade talks next week. Yet an agreement with the country has yet to be made. All unknown factors with demand.
Trade is still very, very much on people's minds.
As farmers try to end 2019 and look towards 2020.
Took the Ranger down here. Just an ocean of water on this other side.
They hope for opportunities to be there to make a profit on a year which has been hard at times to achieve it. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Now, according to the latest crop progress numbers from USDA, maturity continues to run well behind average. Just 43% of the corn crop is mature, 30 points behind the 5-year average. It's only 15% in North Dakota, and that's more than 40 points behind. However, harvest is rolling along. 11% of corn has now been shelled, just a 4-point increase in a week's time. The northern tier of states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Dakotas, are yet to start. 55% of soybeans nationwide are dropping leaves, with Missouri the furthest behind. That has harvest rolling in earnest this week. 7% of beans have now been cut, compared to 20% for the 5-year average. Illinois, it's more than 20 points behind. Both wheat harvest and winter wheat seeding going on out in Montana, although that big winter storm slowed things down a bit. Here's meteorologist Cindy Clausen with today's crop comments. Cindy.
Thanks, Clinton. Well, early season snow may have slowed things down in Montana, but not for this scout. Harley from Troop 1110 in Great Falls got creative, ditching the wagon for a sled to sell popcorn for the annual Scout fundraiser. They had over 19 inches of snow over the weekend. I'm sure there may have been some hot chocolate involved afterwards. Goes great with that salted caramel crunch. Well, the USDA says Montana has planted about 40% of its winter wheat. Normally, they're closer to 60% done, while spring wheat harvest sits at 84% complete. Looking at your wind speed forecast for the day, we're going to see the windier conditions along with that frontal system in the Great Lakes down to the plains, but also in parts of the Rockies. We'll see some stronger breezes there. Overnight, things die down for most areas. Heading into our Thursday, though, we're going to see those winds picking up in the Great Lakes area and into parts of the western United States. Stay tuned. I'll have your national forecast coming up.
When we come back, we'll talk about the environment needed to see soybeans finish strong and the potential of prices to continue to climb. And later, flu season is deadly for thousands of Americans every year. New research may help doctors understand the risks. That story in the country.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, it was another strong showing for the major grains Tuesday. Let's get details now from the floor of the CME.
And we've got mixed markets in the grains, with the wheat being the one market that is trying to be a little bit lower. We had a report yesterday on Monday that wasn't terribly bullish for the wheat, and in the quarterly grain stocks and small grain summary report, we also had crop progress, which might have been just a little bit bearish for the wheat. So just under a little bit of pressure here today in the wheat, but the big story is soybeans. We had a really quite bullish report for soybeans yesterday, with the quarterly grain stocks report coming in almost 100 million bushels below the last USDA estimate. So we have a smaller carry-in, smaller beginning stocks for this current year. And we're really worried about this soybean crop not being as big as what the USDA is saying. We've got China buying pretty much on a daily basis. So things start to turn here for soybeans. There is a better narrative than what we were looking at just a few weeks ago. So soybeans continuing to find strength after the big strength that we saw yesterday, looking good there. Corn trying to follow along, again following up on another bullish report there yesterday in the quarterly grain stocks report, 330 million bushels less corn than what the USDA was last suggesting. That does also kind of change the corn carryover for new crop scenario a little bit as well. So I think that's all very good news. And overall, I think we're set to see higher prices in the row crops between now and the end of the year. However, there's a lot of on-farm corn and soybeans that might still need to move to town between now and the bulk of harvest. We are still well behind on harvest. So if that happens, we could have some cash pressure here and there. But more than anything else, I think those would be buying opportunities. For the most part, just a little bit weaker in the cattle. The cattle are consolidating near a very key 200-day or 100-day moving average, big resistance level. And we've gotten fairly overbought in the near term, so we're waiting to see what we do from here. This is Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge coming to you from the CME floor.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Meteorologist Cindy Clausen taking a look at the weather map for us. And Cindy, this front just kind of hanging out, but bringing some rain with it.
It really is. It hasn't made a lot of movement, but boy, when it does, you're going to feel the difference if you're on one side and then getting to the other. Man, it's going to be a big difference. Let's take a look. And as I mentioned, we really haven't seen a ton of movement. We've seen a lot of the areas seeing the same rain that we were seeing yesterday, but it eventually is going to make some decent eastward progress. Through our Wednesday, we're going to see that rain all the way from the northeast to the Great Lakes, upper Midwest, even northern plains, back down into the southwestern United States. But as we progress into time, the low continues to pull off to the east, so we're going to see more of that rain concentrated, especially into the upper Midwest. Drier conditions with high pressure and control in the east, and then on the back side of that front, but we still have some pretty chilly air there. Now, as we head through our Thursday, we really start to see that low making a northward push and that front really making that eastward push. So watch for a big cool down in temperatures on the back side of this front. In fact, you could be seeing on either side of that front a 10 to 20 degree difference as that front moves through. We'll still keep it warm though in the southern and southeastern United States. All right, let's look at the rainfall because it's been a fair amount, especially along that front and closer to where the low is. Many areas in that 1, 2, even 3 inch range could be seeing some locally higher amounts than that. And as you head through the next 24 hours, you guessed it, it's going to be along that front that we see the most rainfall across the country. We're going to get a little bit of moisture in the Pacific Northwest with a weak front that's going to be coming in there as well. As far as snowfall, most of it's been in those higher elevations in parts of the Northwest. We're going to see that trend continuing as we get into the next 24 hours, really not adding much to that. Temperature-wise, as I mentioned, huge difference. Look at that, 90 in St. Louis, 41 in Bismarck. So we're looking at 50-degree temperature difference. There were lots of hot and humid conditions in the south and southeast, while it's just very cold, much colder than normal as we're seeing things on the back side of that front. So as we head into the overnight hours, pretty much the same. The really cold air, we're going to be getting down into the low to mid 30s here in parts of the northern plains. Not a good thing. And then we're going to see those temperatures again, warm and very muggy conditions in the southeastern United States. Temperatures tomorrow don't change much, but we see that cooler air just moving a little bit further to the east. As you look at the jet stream, you can see that big ridge in the eastern part of the country, trough in the west, but that starts to flatten out a little bit, and you kind of almost have a ridge in the nation's midsection as we get into Friday. But another trough comes in for the weekend, at least across the north central United States as we get into Sunday. And we're going to see a fairly active jet stream with another trough coming in towards the middle of next week. That's your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Hayden, Idaho, mostly sunny with some frost early in the day and a high of 54 degrees. Savannah, Illinois, showers and thunderstorms with a high of 62. And Clarksville, Georgia, sunny and hot with a high of 94.
These farmers have had enough. We'll take a look at why convoys of tractors are snarling traffic in the Netherlands next.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
It turns out parents aren't just buying what they want to eat. According to the National Retail Federation, 9 in 10 parents say their children influence at least some aspect of their purchases. Now, the result is part of a bigger study looking at the effects of Generation Z, those consumers born in 1995 or later, on household spending. Now, the report found that more than 80% of those surveyed involved their children in purchases more than their parents did, and about half of parents say children even influence which brands they consider and product features they consider important. Farmers in one of the world's largest exporting countries demanding a voice in the debate around policy and production. Thousands of Dutch farmers gathered in The Hague on Tuesday calling for more respect for the profession. Many of them driving in slow-moving tractor convoys, snarling traffic around the country. The National Day of Protest comes as the Netherlands wrestles with efforts to drastically reduce emissions of greenhouse gases. Now, among the farmers' demands are that the government does not further reduce the number of animals they can keep and for an independent party to measure the carbon and nitrogen emissions that farms produce. Now, according to one Dutch farmers organization, exports from the Netherlands' nearly 54,000 farms and agriculture businesses were worth almost $100 billion last year alone. Flu season is upon us, and while we all know the virus can be dangerous, a new study reveals why some people could be at risk for life-threatening heart complications. Details next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Did you know nearly 80,000 Americans die after contracting the flu each year? However, the reason behind why some develop life-threatening heart complications has largely been a mystery. Well, a new study is the first to reveal a possible genetic explanation for why some people could be at risk for potentially deadly heart issues from the flu. Barb Consiglio has details in this report from the Ohio State University College of Medicine.
As a healthy 23-year-old, Jen Ludwin didn't worry too much when she came down with the flu.
I figured, you know what, I'll spend 7 days in bed and just fight it off and I'd be okay. But I was totally wrong.
The virus caused Jen's organs to begin to fail. It damaged her lungs and caused bleeding that resulted in amputations. After spending months fighting for her life, Jen is grateful to be alive. When otherwise healthy people develop severe complications from flu, the explanation can be a mystery. Understanding why people without cardiovascular disease develop heart problems has been a particular challenge. But a new study by researchers at the Ohio State University College of Medicine reveals a link between cardiac complications of the flu and a protein that's critical to fighting it.
We make this protein and it inhibits viruses from entering our cells.
A relatively common genetic mutation impedes the production of the protein, and without it, the flu is more likely to infect the heart and cause what's called fibrosis, according to a new study in mice.
Think of it in terms of just like a scar. So if you've ever had a cut and you get a scar afterwards, there's some fibrosis there in the skin. The same type of thing can happen in the lung or in the heart.
It can actually block the electrical current that's traveling through the heart.
This could be what causes some cardiac events in severe cases of the flu. The study found that mice without this gene were more likely to have heart complications and failed to recover after being infected with the virus. This link may lead to improvements in how doctors care for flu patients in the future.
If you know that they're missing the gene ahead of time, that you may tailor your medical therapy differently.
Until experts can study this connection in people, identify those at risk, and develop new treatments, the best defense is prevention, something Jen truly understands the importance of.
Since then, I have gotten the flu shot every single year. I'm probably the first person in line to get it.
At the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center, this is Barb Consiglio reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spend part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by the Milk Business Conference. Don't miss this dairy business-focused event November 11th and 12th, 2019 in Las Vegas. Register today at milkbusinessconference.com.